Hey everyone, Zirin here back again with the second part of my E3 2021 recap. So I think most people realize that this year, E3 2021 has most likely been one of the weaker ones out there, which I imagine is probably due in large part to the whole switch to complete online aspect of E3 2021, as well as the current situation of the world. Aside from Nintendo, who I thought did an absolutely fantastic job, everyone else's offerings range wildly from kind of interesting to, wait, what, did you forget that online E3 was a thing? With that said, after viewing the trailer for every single game, I think there are some standout entries that did catch my eye. As a heads up before we jump into things, I'm not grading the conferences or anything, but rather I'm only strictly taking a look at some of the games that caught my attention. Anyhow, let's start things off with Metal Slug Tactics. So probably is because I haven't seen a Metal Slug related game since 2009 with Metal Slug XX, but seeing Marco, Tarma, Eddie, and Fio again did bring a smile to my face. Also, this opening / trailer is really just Metal Slug but 90% more anime, which I see absolutely nothing wrong with. Another hilarious note is that for whatever reason, in like one frame, Fio is absolutely jacked, and then in the next, her six-pack just vanishes completely. Anywho, let's quickly talk about the best part of this trailer, which is easily the remix of the Metal Slug's theme they used. It is one of the most rock-out best versions of the Metal Slug theme I've ever heard. Holy cannoli, is it insane. The music alone got me going, heck yeah, Metal Slug. Now that I'm done gushing about that, admittingly, I am pretty disappointed that this is a tactics game, as opposed to the classic side-scrolling run and gun that the Metal Slug series is known for. The graphics look alright, nothing special, but all the sprites are pretty faithful to their original counterparts. I used to be in love with tactics games, but nowadays not quite as much. That said, I'll probably still check it out since it is the newest Metal Slug game in over a decade. It wouldn't be much of an E3 recap if I didn't talk about what was most likely the standout entry of E3 2021. That, of course, being Elden Ring, the newest title in FromSoft's lineup, makers of Armored Core and Dark Souls. Elden Ring has been hinted at for so long, and finally we have an actual trailer. And it's just Dark Souls, but with a horse! Jokes aside, it does look pretty dang good. While it certainly seems just like the next-gen version of Dark Souls, probably has a similar dying mechanic, probably has a prophet-hooded lady who's the main narrator, and huge ridiculous bosses, none of that is really a bad thing as Dark Souls is a great game. All the bosses shown were all fantastic looking. Beautiful is probably not the right word since they're all monstrosities, but they did feel suitably epic. The gameplay, from what little we did see, looks fast and flashy. After having replayed the original Dark Souls 1 recently, the graphics look that much more impressive. I suppose if I was to call out one thing that I'm excited for, it'd be what kind of story Elden Ring has. Both Dark Souls and Bloodborne has fantastic lore hidden underneath the difficult gameplay, and after finally moving away from the world of Dark Souls, I'm excited to see what kind of new world Hidetaka Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin end up creating this time. Halo Multiplayer Infinite. Let me just say that I'm not much of a Halo fan by any means. I own absolutely zero Xbox systems, and my first time finishing up Halo 3, 4, and 5's campaign was when the Master Chief Collection came out on PC. With that said, I do have fond memories of playing Halo with some of my friends. There's just something quintessential about playing Capture the Flag, Juggernaut, Team Deathmatch, and all the modes we're familiar with, all the while with that classic narrator going double kill. Since Halo's Infinite multiplayer is announced to be free to play, how true that statement will be when it comes out is beyond me, but if it's true, then of course I'll check it out like the hundreds and thousands of other people that will undoubtedly do so. Obsidian's Outer Worlds 2 didn't really show much of a trailer. It was kind of like the Deadpool self-aware opening, where it just shows a standard trailer, all the while making fun of everything present in it. So basically, it didn't show anything aside from the fact that yes, they're working on it. I did play Outer Worlds 1 when it first came out, and the best way I can describe it is, it's pretty similar to Fallout New Vegas, which of course makes sense, they also made that game. Obsidian RPGs in general usually have pretty solid writing. It's just that sometimes when it comes to other departments like the gameplay, the game isn't nearly as tight. Still, as far as American role-playing games go, they are probably one of the old favorites from back in the day. And if Outer Worlds 2 is anything like its predecessor, it'll probably be a fine game as well. Ah, finally, some good old JRPG magic to get hyped for. Uden Chronicles 100 Heroes is a Kickstarter project that, aside from being one kanji off a completely different JRPG series, Eiyuden Setsu, which is a Japanese name for the Legend of Heroes series, is also a spiritual successor to the much beloved Suikoden series on PlayStation 1 and 2. Well, okay, I say much beloved Suikoden series, but I feel like everyone really loves Suikoden 2, and then no one really talks about the rest of them, like 1, 3, 4, and 5. Suikoden is famous first and foremost for being a turn-based Japanese RPG war drama, where you can recruit a ridiculous number of playable party members into your roster. Thanks to the concept of the 108 Stars of Destiny, there are 108 protagonists in nearly every game for the players to recruit, with every character having their own little story and connection to each other, along with the player unlocking special bonuses if they have recruited all of them by the end of the game. Eiyuden Chronicles seems to follow in these footsteps, considering the subtitle 100 Heroes. As for the trailer itself, aside from the whole static flat artwork in the beginning, it looks to be fairly solid. While the sprites themselves definitely remind me of Suikoden 2, I'm also getting some strong Octopath Traveler vibes from the short snippet of gameplay that we did get to see. Although, to be frank, that might just be from the darkness screen effect that they used throughout the entire trailer to look more epic. Still, it looks like a revamped modern version of Suikoden 2 with a new cast and story, and that's what most fans are looking for anyways. And a few combat animations that we did get to see did look really cool actually. Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes has a release date of 2023, so it'll be some time before we actually see it come out. Ah yes, the trailer that spawned a billion memes about having to kill Chaos. Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins is Square Enix's reimagining of the first Final Fantasy. From a story about 4 create-your-own characters in a turn-based JRPG saving the world, into a character-centered action game about Jack, the man who doesn't even know why he's there, but what he does know is that he is
here to kill Chaos.
Okay, sorry, it's too easy. They had to know this was gonna happen. The man says Chaos with such deadpan, serious voice work way too many times in way too short of a time frame. It's like a parody of an already existing trailer. The darkness is so thick that I can taste it. More like the ham is so thick I can taste it. Now that I got that out of my system, Final Fantasy Origin is made by Team Ninja, a group famous for Modern Ninja Gaiden, Dead or Alive, and Nioh. What we can derive from that is that Final Fantasy Origin is hopefully going to be a pretty solid action game. Just from their track record, I do have fairly high hopes, and as ridiculously hammy as the voice acting, script, plot, and how everything looks in general, I actually found it hilarious, so I'm all in for it. As long as the combat is similar to Gaiden and Nioh, with a satisfying difficulty curve, then I'll definitely end up playing it when it comes out. I think what it really comes down to is how polished the end product is when it releases, and I hope the fact that the demo that just got released on PS5 was unavailable for the first 2 days is not an indication of anything. I just thought I'd quickly mention Astria Ascending the Faded 8, since it did catch my eye with its art style that kind of reminded me of Vanillaware's Dragon Crown. Nowhere near as ridiculous of course, but somewhat similar. The battle system, just from looking at it, gives me Valkyrie profile vibes, which admittingly I have a huge soft spot for. Aside from the introduction of the main 8 characters, the trailer mostly only showed the combat system of the game. Is there a map? An overworld? Is there even a story? Or is it just a game about moving from one battle to the next, similar to Fallen Legion or Saga Scarlet Grace Ambitions? There also seems to be some sort of hint at a 3-year character reset thing. It does sound interesting, but usually for this kind of game, I need some sort of story to motivate me to get to the end, as opposed to just hundreds of battles that eventually just ends with a final battle, which is what the trailer seems to be hinting at being the case. I suppose we'll find out all of that and more when it comes out on September 30th of this year. And finally, we end with Tales of Arise. Bandai Namco is known for many different anime style types of games, with one of their longest running flagship titles being the Tales of series, a collection of JRPGs that are known for its anime aesthetics, real-time action combat, great music by Motoi Sakuraba, and their multiplayer co-op fact. It's been about 6 years since the release of Tales of Berseria, so needless to say, it's been some time. I remember hearing that Tales of Arise wanted to be more of a darker fantasy compared to previous titles, but honestly, I remember Berseria having the same sort of marketing, and that game, while melodramatic at times, was mostly pretty dang goofy fun all around. I also remember some comment from the series director, or some head of the project, about trying to appeal to both a Western and Eastern audience, whatever the heck that means. Whenever I hear that statement, I always get a sneaking bad feeling of developers pandering or excluding features, but I do understand why they are making statements like that though. The Tales of series, while famous in Japan, has a notoriously bad international presence, mostly because they usually do terrible to no marketing for the series outside in America. So I assume this is dumb trying to rectify that fact. Vesperia, Symphonia, and Abyss are well known, but that's mostly through word of mouth as opposed to anything on Bandai Namco's part. And that's only about 3 out of the 16 games that currently make up the series, not including spin-offs or Arise. It's also been confirmed that Tales of Arise has taken out the multiplayer co-op aspect, which has been a series staple for nearly every past Tales game since its introduction in Tales of Destiny. Its exclusion feels really bad, however in a way it isn't too surprising. Tales of Xillia 2, Tales of Zestria, and even Tales of Berseria in its own way all had many combat features that weren't utilized at all when playing multiplayer, such as Zestria's Spirit Partner system or Xillia 2's main character transformation ability. From looking at the gameplay video released earlier, removing the multiplayer also seemed to serve to simplify down the UI, which might appeal to newcomers to the franchise. I also still see many of the aspects retained from Berseria, like the same diamond stamina system for characters to use their moves. Do I find the fact that they took co-op multiplayer out of the series annoying? Yeah, a little bit, but will I not play the game because of this exclusion? Of course not. I'm still excited to play a new Tales regardless. If there is one thing I'm hoping for Tales of Arise to achieve, it is to make the combat fun and engaging from the beginning. The Tales of series usually has a fantastic combat system. The problem I usually have with it, however, is that most of the time, you can't really pull off anything that exciting until you're near the end of the game, once you have all the tools necessary to do so. Hopefully, with a more single player focus, they can tailor their combat so you can really pull off some combos from the beginning, and then do even more amazing things by the end of the game, as opposed to just spamming Demon Fang on literally every mob you see for the first 5 hours. Luckily for all of us, unlike the previously delayed Infinitely announcement, this time we got a release date of September 10th, which is pretty dang close. And that was my look at E3 2021 as a whole. There were a few other titles that I was interested in, like Back 4 Blood, which is a Left 4 Dead spiritual successor, but for the most part that was pretty much everything I saw that caught my eye. E3 2021 in general didn't have too many games of notable interest. It just kind of felt like many companies didn't bother preparing for E3, perhaps due to the whole online nature of the conference. I also kind of laughed at how during the Xbox conference, every game ended with "Play Day 1 with Xbox Game Pass." Like, dang man, Uden Chronicle isn't even going to be out until 2023. Am I supposed to buy Xbox Game Pass every month all the way till then? There were also a lot of games that all they showed was a nonsense nothing teaser like Starfield from Bethesda. It certainly was a rough one all around. Still, at least there were some interesting games shown, even if many of them have already been announced and are just now getting more of a spotlight. If you've got any standout titles of your own from this E3 conference, feel free to tell me about it in the comments below. Otherwise, like, subscribe, notification, and bell icons are all in the same place as always if you want to support the channel. That'll be it for me. I'm off to go kill chaos. Till next time.